following program is provided by the Triarchy of Civilization to help in restoring lost history to Kuat. For Kuatian's understanding, the following information has been anchored around your event known as the Collapse, further referenced as Year 0. Please send any inaccuracies to Triarch Harbin. Year minus 150. The Tetraparadigm, TPA, sends the Triarch of Frontiers to deep space. The TPA launches the Triarch of Frontiers on a mission to explore deep space, marking the beginning of their expansion into uncharted regions. The mission aims to identify habitable planets for colonization and resource exploitation. Year minus 142. Discovery of Kuat. The Triarch discovered the planet Kuat, located in the inner circles of our galaxy. It is rich in resources, particularly its vast industrial potential, making it an ideal candidate for colonization. The first colonial fleet is dispatched to Kuat, marking the beginning of its transformation into a key strategic asset. Years minus 142 to minus 132. Expansion of TPA colonies. In the span of a decade, the TPA identifies and colonizes additional planets, Kubrut, Lueruta, and Yaikurus. Smaller colonial fleets are dispatched to each of these worlds, with Kuat serving as the focal point of expansion. The TPA establishes a foothold in the Outer Rim, integrating these planets into its growing interstellar network, forming the Greater Paradigm Network. However, these three other planets proved to be much more complicated to colonize and would receive much less attention than Kuat would in the following years. Year minus 132. Formation of the Kuatian Senate. TPA establishes the Kuatian Senate, KS, a semi-autonomous governing body for the Kuat planet. The Senate is tasked with administering the Kuatian colony, ensuring stability, and overseeing the military of the Kuatian senatorial navy. While the Senate has a degree of independence, it remains under the ultimate authority of the TPA. Year minus 130. Kuat becomes an economic hub. Kuat's industrial output begins to rapidly increase, with the planet becoming a hub for shipbuilding, technology production, and resource extraction. Kuat's strategic location and its technological prowess make it an essential economic asset for the TPA. The Senate negotiates trade agreements with the neighboring colonies, and Kuat becomes a key player in the galactic economy. In year minus 128, Kuat's economic boom leads to the construction of massive trade hubs and resource mining colonies, further establishing its dominance within the region. Year minus 124. Kuatian requests for independence. The Kuatian Senate formally requests independence from the TPA, seeking to form a new relationship built on mutual respect and an alliance rather than subjugation. The TPA agrees to the request, but on the condition that all paradigm colonies remain under TPA jurisdiction and all trade routes between the colonies remain tariff-free. The Senate accepts these terms. The key senators involved in this decision were Senator Andrzej, Hawk, Malt, Arno, Jonas, Vincent, Leopold, and Janik. These are the same senates as when the Kuatian Senate was founded. The Senate is known for its unique governance model, where senators take turns in extended cryosleep, each senator serving for 1 year, followed by 7 years of sleep, ensuring continuity of leadership over long periods. Year minus 120. The establishment of the Kuatian Defensive Pact. After securing independence, the Kuatian Senate forms the Kuatian Defense Pact with the neighboring colonies. The pact provides mutual defense agreements, ensuring that the Kuat system can protect itself from external threats without the direct involvement of the TPA. Kuat establishes a more independent military force, which begins to strengthen its borders. Year minus 110. Political factions begin to emerge in Kuat. As Kuat's power grows, political factions within the senatorial navy start to become more pronounced. Two major factions form: the Crimson Shield, a group formed within the Third Fleet, seeking to expand their influence in keeping the people safe, and the Crown of Kuat, formed within the Second Fleet, a diplomatic faction focused on maintaining peaceful relations and stability in the Crown region of Kuat. Tensions within the Kuat Navy begin to be apparent, especially between the First Fleet and the Fourth Fleet. In year minus 108, the Crimson Shield, gaining influence within the Kuatian Navy, begins pushing for a more aggressive stance in dealing with threats against the people of Kuat. Year minus 100. Kuatian expansionism and early conflicts. Under the influence of the Fourth Fleet, known as the Far Reach Force, Kuat begins an attempt to extend its borders into neighboring colonies. A series of border skirmishes with the Kuat colony breaks out, though the situation is quickly diffused through diplomatic efforts spearheaded by the First and Second Fleet. This marks the first significant use of Kuatian military force in the region. In year minus 98, the Senate manages to broker peace, but growing military tensions begin to unravel the Senate's fragility unity within the Navy. Reparations are paid to the Kuat colony, and the events are redacted. Year minus 90. Kuat's military and technological advances spark concerns. Kuat continues to advance its technological capabilities, especially in military hardware, artificial intelligence, and deep space exploration. These advancements make the Kuatian Senatorial Navy one step closer to matching the might of the Paradigm Fleet. Neighboring colonies begin to express concern over Kuat's growing power to the Tetra Paradigm. In year minus 88, the Kuatian Navy conducts a series of successful military exercises, showcasing their new battle fleets and establishing Kuat as a dominant military force within their region. Year minus 80. First Kuatian internal crisis. Tensions between the Far Reach Force, Fourth Fleet, and the First Fleet finally come to a head in an internal Senate crisis. The Far Reach Force orders a military strike against the Kuat system, which is suspected of harboring anti-Kuatian sentiments. This covert operation is discovered and stopped, causing a major political uproar. In year minus 78, a tense investigation follows, and the First Fleet demands accountability. The Senate narrowly avoids a complete Kuatian collapse after tense negotiations, but the crisis leaves the Navy divided after officers are removed from power. In year minus 76, the Senate passes a reform that temporarily consolidates power in the hands of the Senate to prevent further militaristic actions by the Far Reach Force. Year minus 70. Kuat's economic boom. Kuat's industrial sector experiences an unprecedented boom, driven by increased demand for its advanced shipyards and manufacturing capabilities. The Kuat system becomes a central hub for shipbuilding and military technology in the greater Paradigm system, and the Kuatian economy flourishes. In year minus 68, Kuat begins to reduce active trade agreements with the TPA and other colonies, decided to focus on self-sufficiency and military readiness. Year minus 60. Kuatian naval expansion. Kuat embarks on an ambitious military expansion, drastically increasing the size of its fleet and fortifying its industry. The Kuatian Senatorial Navy becomes the most advanced and powerful fleet within Kuat, signaling Kuat's readiness to defend its sovereignty and assert its dominance. In year 58, the Kuatian Navy develops their first new battleships, vastly enhancing its combat capabilities. Tensions with minor factions in Kuat, as well as neighboring colonies, rise as Kuat's military power grows. In year 55, the Kuatian Senatorial Navy successfully disbands a hostile force that was growing within one of the far sectors of the system. Year 50, the Great Debate. A pivotal moment in Kuat's political history occurs when the Senate debates whether to push for full military expansion or to seek a more peaceful diplomatic route. The debate is heated, with the far-reach force calling for conquest and expansion, while the other fleets push for diplomacy and trade agreements with neighboring systems. In year 48, the debate reaches a climax, resulting in the formation of a new political compromise, the Kuatian Strategic Doctrine, which balances military preparedness with diplomatic negotiations. This compromise temporarily stabilizes the Senate's hold on the KSN. Year 40, first diplomatic mission to TPA. Despite Kuatian's Senate growing independence, a diplomatic mission is sent to the Tetra Paradigm to reaffirm their alliance and discuss future relations. The mission is seen as a significant step toward maintaining cordial ties between the two entities, even though tensions over autonomy remain. In year 38, diplomatic talks continue and are successful in easing tensions between Kuat and the TPA, although there remain unease about Kuat's growing military strength. Year 30, the Great Isolation. Amid growing fears of external threats, the Kuatian Senate decides to enact a policy of partial isolation, limiting trade and communication with the TPA and other external factions. This period of isolation allows Kuat to focus on internal development and fortifying its defenses. In year 28, Kuat begins the construction of massive military fortifications around its moons, and the Kuatian Navy conducts a series of tests of unknown weapon projects, signaling that Kuat is preparing for potential conflict. The following year, in year 27, the Kuatian Senate begins to fully blockade any information between the colonies and the TPA to itself and trusted members. The general populace is to not be in contact with the colonies and the Tetra Paradigm from here on out. Year 20. Kuat becomes a military power. Kuat has fully transitioned into a major military power with one of the largest and most advanced fleets within the colonies. The Kuatian Senatorial Navy operates a formidable force of capital ships, battleships, and stealth vessels, securing Kuat's position as a major player in galactic politics. In year 18, Kuat conducts a series of high-profile military exercises, showcasing its naval superiority and sending a clear message to its neighbors about its military capabilities. Year 12. The Kuatian Silence. While ties were not fully cut, the Kuatian Senate began reducing communications with the colonies and the TPA, even refusing transit to and from the Kuat system. This sparked concerns within the Paradigm system, but the Kuatian Senate assured the Paradigm and the colonies that this was a temporary setback so that Kuat could focus on stabilizing their own region and ensuring that no conflicts could reach the colonies and the Paradigm system. In year 10, tetra-paradigm assumes the Kuatian Senate is dealing with internal affairs that could spill over in other regions, and after considering sending forces to assist, they decide otherwise to avoid sparking unnecessary conflict between Paradigm and Kuat. Year -1. The Kuatian Senate cut ties with the TPA. The Kuatian Senate takes the unprecedented step, while predicted, of severing all communication and trade relations with the TPA. The destruction of the jump gates effectively isolates Kuat from the wider galaxy, signaling a dramatic shift in Kuat's foreign policy and a rejection of the TPA's influence. The Kuatian Senatorial Navy enacts strict blockade procedures to ensure no further contact with TPA or external factions. The Senate declares full independence, though tensions remain high. The TPA, unsure of the motivations behind this drastic move, briefly considers military retaliation, but ultimately refrains, choosing to focus on internal matters. From this point on, this information is what the newly formed New Paradigm Singularity believes has happened with our limited intelligence. 1 month before Year 0, civil war breaks out in Kuat. As the Kuatian Senate begins to fracture, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Fleets, loyal to the Senate, engage in full-scale conflict over control of the Kuat system against the 4th and newly formed 5th Fleet, who demand the destruction of the Senate. The civil war erupts in violent clashes, devastating the once thriving system. Tensions between the factions rise as they fight for dominance. Year 0. The collapse. The collapse of the Kuatian Senate marks the breakdown of centralized authority in Kuat system. While the causes of the collapse remain unclear, it is speculated that some of the TPA remnants left behind during the isolation may have covertly participated in the conflict leading to the Senate's elimination. The population, unaware of the broader political forces, is caught in the aftermath of the conflict and left blinded by their deleted history. The Senatorial Navy fractures into competing power blocks, with both the Crimson Militia, formerly the Crimson Shield, and the Guild Royal Navy, formerly the Crown of Kuat, seeking control of the planet and its surroundings. The destruction of Kuat's political structure leads to widespread instability, with several minor factions and warlords beginning to fight for control of territories. Year 1 to Year 9, the warring state. Following the collapse, the Kuat system descends into a brutal and prolonged civil war. 2 primary factions, the Crimson Militia and the Guild Royal Navy, battle for control of the system. The war continues for nearly a decade, with both sides gaining and losing power over key strategic locations. The war is marked by fierce battles, shifting alliances, and intermittent ceasefires. In Year 4, the Kuatian planet is abandoned for now, as it is deemed unclaimable and rumored to be inhabitable due to the conflicts that happened there. The Crimson Militia and Guild Royal Navy focus on their core territories and defending against local enemies. In Year 6, a temporary ceasefire is brokered, but is quickly broken after further clashes over strategic resources. In Year 10, the Crimson Militia and Guild Royal Navy officially go to war for control over Kuat. 5 months before the end of Year 10, the TPA inner struggles escalate with the formation of the New Paradigm Singularity, NPS, where armed conflicts occur between some of the triarchs, mainly those of Frontiers, trying to consolidate more power to themselves within the paradigm. 4 weeks before the end of Year 10, the uprising fails, and the Singular exiles the triarchs of Frontiers from the paradigm homeworld. Year 10. the end of the Dark Age. The Triarchs of Frontiers attempt to reassert control over Kuat by force. Their intervention, however, backfires as they end up uniting the warring factions against them, leading to the Triarchs' defeat and destruction. Months later, Kuatian envoys would arrive in Paradigm. Shortly after the fall of the Triarchs, these envoys would make contact with Paradigm, signaling the beginning of a new era in interstellar diplomacy.